And welcome back to Stanny Boy Reviews. I'm your host, Stanley. Thank you so much for taking the time to check out my channel,
where I like to talk about my favorite horror films.
And maybe not my favorite horror films, maybe they're your favorite horror films too. But hey, sometimes they suck, sometimes they're literally awful. But today, that is not the case. Today, I come back from a week-long break to talk about horror perfection. No joke, I feel like I have been waiting the longest time to talk about this movie. You know what? It's the middle of February, it's cold outside. This movie was supposed to be called February. It just feels right. We are talking about the Oz Perkins directed The Blackcoat's Daughter. So go grab whatever it is you can that will force you to pay as close attention as possible, because you guys, this movie is one that requires you to keep your eyes on the screen at all times. Take a seat, I'm already seated, and let's go down to the broiler room, baby. The Blackcoat's Daughter, man, I don't even know where to begin. It's not every day I get the opportunity to review a perfect film. Not even a perfect horror film, a perfect film. Sure, I have given 4 stabs, 5 stabs to plenty of movies, and I have praised those movies, but this movie is an entirely separate entity. The Blackcoat's Daughter was written and directed by Oz Perkins, who is the son of Norman Bates himself, Anthony Perkins from Psycho.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
Although it was released after I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House, it was filmed first, so technically this would be his feature film debut. The script was completed in 2012 with the casting of Kiernan Shipka from Mad Men and Emma Roberts from Scream 4 being announced in 2014, while it began filming under the name of February. During the month of February of 2015, it wouldn't see a release until February of 2017. Eventually, the title would change to The Blackcoat's Daughter, but on Netflix UK, it still streams as February. See the pattern here? I'm reviewing it in February. It used to be called February.
February.
I may have done this on purpose. Perkins would get his brother, Elvis, to score the film. He would go on record saying, "The medium was confining. The restrictions almost killed him." And he would never do it again. The Blackcoat's Daughter has a 73% on Rotten Tomatoes, a 3.3 out of 5 on Letterboxd, and a 68 out of 100 on Metacritic. It was included in the New York Times list of 13 scariest horror movies to watch in 2020, and I could not agree more. Average ratings aside, I will ham this up until the day I die as solid gold. And I have so many reasons for it. So I guess we should just get into it. Yeah. The Blackcoat's Daughter is set up in 3 different timelines and is about 3 different girls. The first timeline is about Rose, played by Lucy Boynton. I think I'm saying her last name right. She is a beautiful senior at a prestigious Catholic boarding school who may or may not be pregnant. A break of sorts is coming up, and she sees to it that she is able to stay behind so she can figure out what to do about this possible pregnancy. Kat, a shy and quiet freshman played by Kiernan Shipka, is also staying behind, but for a very different reason. She can't seem to reach her parents at all. And oddly enough, she's been having reoccurring dreams that her parents have died in a terrible car crash while en route to pick her up.
Dad is calling to see where you and Mom are.
So together, the 2 of them are left behind at the boarding school during the break while everyone else leaves, but they're under the watchful eye of 2 nuns. But something is very, very wrong with Kat, something that is growing increasingly obvious as the clock ticks on.
Catherine. Is there something wrong?
Elsewhere, in a different timeline, we have Joan, played by Emma Roberts. She is a traveling hitchhiker who is picked up by a couple, played by James Remar and Lauren Hawley.
Do you believe in God, Joan?
And they are grieving parents who are on their way to the gravesite of their deceased daughter who died in a tragic murder years ago at the same boarding school that Kat and Rose attended. Joan harbors a dangerous dark secret, something that we do not discover until the final act, and something that I am not going to give away. And goddamn, when the final act happens, I can only imagine that your jaw is going to be on the floor just like mine was. Like I said earlier, it's a movie that you have to pay full attention to from beginning until the end. Because if you blink, you're going to miss a lot. Things that are plain as day, happening right in front of you that are so painfully clear that you're going to pinch yourself for not catching them. The first time I watched this film, I was in a sort of confused awe, and I found myself doing a little bit of digging, some research, because I needed to know more. I was a little befuddled by what I had just seen. And then I did an immediate rewatch, something I very rarely do for any movie, and I paid closer attention, and it was like watching it for the first time. I noticed so much more. It was an even better movie. Like, I liked it the first time. I loved it the second time. And since then, it's a movie that warrants a rewatch. If you've seen it once, you haven't seen it enough. And here's why. The performances are impeccable. I don't know how or where Kiernan Shipka pulled any of this from, but coming from an actor, this is not something an actor can be taught. What in the actual I have always been a fan of Kiernan Shipka, back from the Sally Draper days and going on to the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina days. And if you haven't seen Swimming with Sharks, I implore you, watch it.
Because I'm dreaming the hardest.
But this is Kiernan Shipka's calling card. This is her film. If you're going to watch this movie, watch it for her.
I mean, I just wish you could stay and see my performance. That's all.
She is a powerhouse. Everyone else does a superb job too, more notably Emma Roberts, who gives a quiet, subtle, sad display and lets her eyes do most of the acting, which is so different from what she usually does. And it works so well. And the women in this movie, Oz Perkins really gets something special out of these ladies. And what I really love about The Blackcoat's Daughter is that while it's a horror film, it has sincere depth and it leaves you wondering, and it mixes so much and it throws so much at you, but it doesn't become too overwhelming. I mean, it has murder, it has possession, and it has a certain human bleakness that I can't even begin to describe to you. Because again, I don't want to give anything away. When it was over, I wanted to cry. I wanted to hold everyone within the movie and tell them it was going to be okay, even after all the awful things I had just witnessed. And it's not very often a film affects me like this, but this one did, and it tugged at my heartstrings, and it was beautifully written, gorgeously shot, and it felt like February. I don't know how else to explain it. For all of this, I give it 5 glorious stabs. I mean it when I say that this is probably one of my favorite horror films, if not one of my favorite films of the last 10 years. It is so underrated. So many more people should see this movie. I can't praise it enough. Watch it, watch it, watch it. I have seen most, if not all, of Oz Perkins' movies, and this is his Wizard of Oz. It is so good. And I do want to reiterate that The Blackcoat's Daughter is not your typical horror film. I just want to say that there's something scarier and more tragic, I guess, about loneliness, about yearning for something to fill an emptiness. There's true horror in that when it all comes down to it, and I think that there's something very frightening about that. I hope you all had a very good Valentine's Day. I didn't. Clearly. What do you say, guys? Have you seen The Blackcoat's Daughter? Do you plan to watch The Blackcoat's Daughter? I hope you do. For the love of God, watch it. And if you don't like it, tell me why. But I really feel like you will. Let me know what you think in the comments. And also, don't forget, I'm on social media. Find me on Instagram. Find me on Twitter. And don't forget that I'm on TikTok. And also, you guys, subscribe! I am mostly here every Monday. This last week, I had some technical difficulties after doing a stupid update on my Mac, but that doesn't happen all the time. I'll be back soon. Thank you so much for watching.
Bye!